Persona is a franchise that puts its emphasis on characters, whereas other games would focus on narrative. Still, character-driven stories don't necessarily mean that your characters are going to be well received, or your audience is going to be attached to them. So what is it that gives the Phantom Thieves such a loyal following, where even individual party members are more compelling than entire ensembles in other contemporary games? The most obvious reason would be the inordinate amount of time spent watching the characters. With Persona 5 being a gargantuan game in terms of length, it's inevitable that you'll form some kind of affection for a character you spend so much time with. When you form an opinion on a character upon meeting them, or maybe getting to know them, you either like them or don't like them. Even if this attachment is exceptionally mild, the more time you spend with a character, the more intense that attachment becomes, whether it's love or hate. It's like making a friend in real life. When you meet a stranger, you have no opinion of them as a person, but if you're fond of them, you'll meet them again, and over time the bond between you two will strengthen into genuine friendship. Time is a vital part of growth in a relationship. It's why hasty marriages are a bad idea, and most media doesn't have the time to let you get attached to its characters. Without that time, writers have to be at the top of their field in order for me to love their creations, because they have limited time to get me to like them. I can count the number of movie characters I love on one hand. I couldn't count the amount of anime characters I love with all the bones in my body, because the extended format of episodic media gives me the time to become enraptured with the characters on the screen. And while games are getting longer and longer, not a whole lot of that time is spent on storytelling, which is a great thing. I'm not here for a movie, I want to play a game, so the time spent on story is ultimately a lot less than that of TV shows and anime, so it's harder for me to get attached to video game characters. And this is where Persona 5 creates the perfect storm, as it's an obscenely long game, allowing for ample time for you to become invested in its ensemble cast, causing your bonds to deepen with them, and by the end, you'll have an incredibly passionate opinion on the party member one way or another. So in a way, Persona 5 cheats with its length, as without that core part of the game, I think I'd be a lot less passionate about my adoration for the thieves. But these bonds are also boosted by the moment-to-moment gameplay of Persona 5, which is of course increasing confidant levels and raising affection with the characters through your in-game avatar. I usually hate the silent protagonist, and would much rather be shown the compelling tale of an established and well-defined character. Still, it works here in Persona 5 because of this confidant system. Usually I want to see the relationship between two characters evolve over a story to reach a satisfying conclusion. Still, because the connection is such a core theme of the game, with how it ties into the gameplay boons and the types of persona you can forge, it should be me, the player, creating these bonds, not a character that I control. Where most RPGs would fill the downtime between major dungeons with a crawl across some empty plains with waves of mobs to defeat, Persona restricts the play area to a few scant maps, and replaces grinding with a social skill tree that you have to climb. But again, just because you put your focus on your characters and give the player inordinate amounts of time to spend with them, it doesn't guarantee success if you can't write them well. And for me and my generation, Persona 5 came at a perfect time, when people my age were downtrodden with society, as we were beginning to realize the futility that the generations before us faced against an economic class that has no value for us. So to see a group of people our age that face the same issues we were rise up against the adults was an awe-inspiring feat that fulfilled Gen Z's craziest fantasies for the better world we all envisioned in our childhoods. It was also amazing how each thief was made for a different type of disheartened Gen Z. Ryuji is for the kids whom the world had already given up on. Yusuke is for autistic kids who struggle to find meaning outside of their hyperfixations and don't interact well with other people. And Futaba is for kids who can't make that first step to go up and talk to someone, so they shut themselves down. And I myself relate to all three of those characters, due to experiences I was going through at the time I played the game. But every thief has their archetype for other troubled kids who are going through tough times. Haru is for kids pressured by their parents while their own dreams are stifled. Makoto is for kids feeling intense academic pressure and not focusing on living their teen lives. And On is for kids who have horrible rumors spread about them, and for girls who feel harassed by boys at their school. Persona 5 was the perfect storm for a deep, character-focused story that tackled the issues of today's youth at a time when no one was writing stories that were about them. This is why representation in media is so important, because it directly connects you to the characters you see on screen, and heightens your enjoyment to levels you didn't think possible.